Hey guys, welcome back to my live Facebook stream. You're joining me here in my home in Los Angeles. I'd like to say sunny Los Angeles, but it's overcast and cloudy, so just like the rest of the world probably. Anyway, today we're going to talk about lean muscle gains, bulking if you like, talking about training, cardio, nutrition, absolutely. As always, I've got my laptop down here, I'm filming on the phone. And apologies first of all because the neighbors, they're doing some kind of construction or building, so if you keep hearing hammering, drilling, sawing, shouting, not much I can do about that. So we'll try and power on through. Anyhow, this is week number 3, I think, of these live Facebook streams, and one of the reasons I wanted to start this is just a much easier way to be able to speak about things that I'm passionate about, things that I know you guys are interested in and hearing more about. And it's a much more interactive way than just putting a video out. I love doing video because I feel it's the most, how can I put this, realist form of social media information. We're not modifying it too much. Anyway, that's besides the point. The fact of these live Facebook streams are you guys get to ask questions, for the most part, really intelligent, good questions that make me think. And so, yeah, this topic is more about lean muscle gain, putting on some size and weight, regardless if it's for competition or just your own personal interest. And if you want to find out more about what we talked about over the past couple of weeks and last month, just head over to my Facebook page. Obviously, you're watching on it now. But you go to the video tab, if you go to the desktop, it's the easiest thing. Go to the video tab and you can see my playlist of all of the videos that we've done in the past. See a couple of you, you keep posting questions. I'm going to do my best to answer these questions. I'll talk a little bit first to kind of lay the foundation. And then as I always say with these streams, there's several hundred of comments and questions. So kind of keep posting them. I'll tell you now what I'm going to talk about. So if you do have a question about that, we'll try and cover it first and foremost. And then if you have specific questions about anything that I talk about, it's going to make much more sense than kind of just putting them off and kind of we going off on a tangent. So first off, I'm going to talk about the process of weight gain. This is all in my experience, my opinion. I'm not going to claim that this is the definitive way or the best scientific way. So it's a kind of a free-for-all. This is my experience. You guys, we're talking back and forth about questions, weight gain, muscle building, putting on some size, and this is really just my story of how I've done it. And I realize I'm not a big guy by any means, certainly by the level of competition out there now. Mick McNabb, I keep seeing your reply to your mail. Do you mean email or your comments on here? Let's keep the questions related to fitness and especially this topic today. So we'll talk about that process, then I'll kind of cover a little bit more about nutrition and also touch upon kind of rest days, workout routines, exercises. So, all right, here we go. I've got the laptop down here. I can see the live stream pretty much happening. Lots of white today. All right, so muscle building. Let's talk about how to go about doing this. First of all, I do believe in a bit of a surplus of calories. That doesn't mean bulking. I've been there, I've done that. I know last time a lot of you guys were asking about that, kind of bulking and then cutting. I think that's a very old method approach to putting on some size, and here's why. Unless you're following, and by diet, I always talk about diet as being just the food variety of the groups that we eat. I'm not talking about counting your numbers all of the time, but to a degree, there still needs to be an element, I think, of controlled nutrition, not just a free-for-all. And I've done this before in the past where I just felt for so many months, I wanted to put on some size and I would just eat and I needed calories in. And the result was I definitely did put on some size and some weight, but not in the right places. And I just, especially around my cheeks, my lower abdomen, not really anywhere else. I just basically, my body started to accumulate more body fat. And so what I found was, let's take this typical, let's take a 3 or 4 month or an 8 month time frame. And you want to effectively bulk, you want to put on some size. I have a problem with that word and I'll tell you why later. But you want to bulk, you put on some size, you eat a lot of calories, maybe no cardio, no abs perhaps, but you're just kind of lifting the big heavy weights and focusing on the big muscle groups. So you've got some strength back in, of course, because your body has this surplus of extra energy and calories. And you get to a point where you've reached maybe the weight that you wanted to, and you want to start to focus on cutting. So we have this bulk and then cut. My experience with this is if I look at point A before I start that bulk, and I get to point B, the top of the bulk, and then right at the end of the cutting phase, if I look at that 8-month period and focus on really the difference between A and C is, more mentioning a ghost behind me, I don't think so. I really have only kind of put on maybe a pound or two of lean muscle, and I've had that struggle and the stress, a little bit of eating what I want, of course, but I don't think I look good at all during those first 3 or 4 months. So it's a lot of stress on the body, which is really my point at getting at. And the way I've done it over the past 4 or 5 years is, if I'm not looking at conditioning, and by that let's just assume it's kind of cutting, is that I want to focus on my point A to my point C, and just look at it as a smoother kind of progressive increase, which over an 8-month period I can probably put on 3-4 pounds of quality lean muscle without losing much of my conditioning at all. And the way that I would do that is simply to increase my calorie only by about 500, 600, 700 more than my baseline. I don't need to be hoarding calories and allowing my body to basically store them and increase body fat. My focus is purely just to provide my body with adequate amount of fuel, so that during the training, and more importantly the rest, the recovery state, my body has that necessary fuel without kind of being in that controlled starvation. So that would be my first tip with kind of putting on some size, is to debunk, get rid of that kind of bulk and then cut, and focus on an end point. I mentioned this in my last video where we talked about more cardio and cutting. And if you're interested more in fat loss and cardio, go back to my playlist here on Facebook and check that out. But I would look at it as this gradual increase in calories, your weight training. I find that when you have a structure to your training and nutrition, you've always got a point, a reference point at which you can revert back to and check, and kind of basically just ask yourself, is my training and my nutrition, what I'm doing, actually progressive towards my goals? And if you're not seeing an increase in either strength or weight, or at the end of the day, just how you look and feel about yourself when looking in the mirror or looking at photos, something needs to change. And if you don't have a set routine, a set structure, it's you're kind of at a loss as to which area you want to change. So going back a couple of videos of this live stream when I was talking about cutting, just to kind of flip this on its head, you start off at here and you want to get to this point, and you have these kind of little checkpoints every couple of weeks where you would check in on your weight, your body composition, body fat levels, and really just how you're looking in the mirror. I would do the same thing if I'm looking at putting on some size. I'm 180 pounds, give or take, and I want to focus on maybe putting on 5 pounds of muscle. Not all of that's going to be muscle, of course. There's never a clean, you're purely losing body fat or you're purely adding muscle. There's always going to be a mixture. And the goal here is to get a better ratio of muscle gain to fat gain, and a better ratio of fat loss to muscle loss. So there's always a mixture. It's never one or the other completely. So have a structure to your weight training program. Have a structure, or at least an understanding about the diet, the foods, the meals, the calories that you're having, because at least then after, let's say 4 weeks, which is a good kind of typical standard checkpoint to get things going, you can then check your diet and your training program, and based on if you are seeing an increase in your weight, your body mass, or of course body composition, you're actually seeing, if you're able to monitor that, an increase in lean muscle mass, you know that you're pretty much on the right path. And when that starts to drop down from that increase over the following weeks, you have a set factor to go to your diet and your training and say, okay, maybe I'm training with too much frequency. I'm training 6 days a week, or maybe let's see the results. Everything is a kind of I've used the word trial and error before, but trial and adjustment. the best way is to kind of gain as much knowledge as you can from various sources, books, people, textbooks and journals especially, and then kind of test it upon yourself. And by that I mean follow a training plan and information provided by a trainer or someone you follow, nutrition plan, and then check back after so many points and actually see if what you're doing is resulting in expected results. And if not, change one or two aspects. Don't change everything. Focus on maybe adding in an extra rest day. Maybe focusing on working your chest, your legs, your back, your shoulders over the course of a 7-week or an 8-week period instead of trying to group them all together. Therefore, allowing your body more time to deplete the muscle glycogen and really stress out that particular muscle, and then allowing it a good 2, if not 3 days of rest. And by that I mean, if you really trained your shoulders on a Monday, training your chest on a Tuesday or even on a Wednesday may not be as it's going to provide the adequate amount of rest needed for that muscle to be able to come back a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger over time. So before I start to answer your questions now, one of the things that I first either read or got told when I started training back when I was 14, 15 was, think of your muscles as being like this bridge. You know, a little bridge over a stream or whatever. Every time you weight train, you're basically knocking down this bridge or starting to attack it and destroy it. Think about going at it with an axe and chopping into the wood on this bridge. The recovery part is where, you know, with adequate nutrition, think of nutrition and rest as being these little builders that come in that basically repair that bridge, making it a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, a little bit more rigid so it can withstand that same level of stress again. So the body is becoming more efficient at dealing with that stress, the stress being resistance from weight training. So two things here you can start to see, and I realize that's a very simplistic, non-scientific approach, but mentally it gave me a really good visual that when I went into the gym, and especially when there was a rest day or at least a recovery day for that muscle group, I knew that it was important to allow my body, that muscle group, to fully rest before going into the gym as much as I wanted to, especially early on, to go and lift weights again. So two things I got from that. The first was I need adequate rest for that muscle group. So this comes down to then, well, how do I structure my training program? This is one of the kind of the earlier questions I had as to, all right, I want to train all of my body. I want to optimize my recovery times. I want to make sure that I'm in the gym feeling fresh when I'm training. I'm not kind of training a muscle group and then another muscle group kind of that's worked as a B muscle group, if you like, the following day. So that was the first thing, is establishing a kind of a training, an exercise layout, if you like. The second thing was progressive increase. By that I mean, your body's going to adapt to be able to perform the same task, the same stress with better results, meaning less energy input. The body wants a very easy, minimal change, if you like. So when we introduce something into our lives, like a workout plan, your body wants to be able to adapt to it so it's more efficient at doing it. Therefore, if you're doing the same type of workout, or at least lifting the same weights, you're following a set kind of Monday through to Sunday or Monday through Saturday with Sunday off, let's say, and you're following a set routine, day in, day out, weeks and months, there will come a point at which obviously you're not going to be able to continue to push the weight up, and your body, you're not going to see as much changes. That's why in the early stages of, especially when a beginner is starting out, they're likely to see the biggest change in those first 2 months, certainly 4-6 months, and then a year or so later, remaining that they're training the same way, they're not seeing the same level of changes, and it's because their body's adapted. So you need to have this kind of, that's why I say have a set routine, a structure, so that you can start to change various factors and allow your body to then have to adapt to that. And it's those little step ups, if you think of it as being the areas that your body will then start to show a change. All right, that's the kind of foundation down. Let's let me refresh the Facebook page on my laptop and have a look at answering some questions. So Again, each of these Facebook streams I want to keep to a particular topic and a segment, and for this one I want it to be about putting on size, muscle gains, bulking, if you like, if you want to talk about that. A little bit about food as well, but for anything related to cardio, conditioning, certainly nutrition, meal prep, I've covered a lot of that before. I've tried to have the titles of those videos as kind of direct and straightforward, so check out the playlist first and we'll cover, we've got several more months of these to go. Okay, looking at the questions now. Okay, someone asked, he wants to be a bodybuilder but not pregnant. I assume you're talking about the distended gut there. Advise me please. Question's gone now. Look, when you look at, I don't want to get outside of really what we're talking about here. Bodybuilders, and by every sense, let's talk about like the Mr. Olympia people. They do whatever it is that they feel they need to do to be able to get the, I don't want to say just the biggest here, but to be able to completely get the best results from their training so that they can put on pounds and pounds of muscle, they can get all of that separation and they can dial it right down. That's not what I do. Mine's, I always look at my training as a much more diluted version of that. It's essentially still a form of bodybuilding. I'm bodybuilding, and my approach to the workouts, many of the exercises, the videos that you've seen, and certainly my nutrition, how I plan that out, is essentially built around that of a bodybuilder. My results are nothing like that of a bodybuilder. I'm not, for my height, I'm nowhere near 200 pounds or above. I don't have the muscle fullness or thickness or size. And that just comes down to most likely the, you know, a few areas that I don't touch. And also, look, credit where credit is due. Regardless what many of them may or may not take, we're not talking about that now. The fact is their dedication and their commitment to the sport is, you know, you can't knock it. These guys are literally the best artists in the world at changing their body and presenting that. And whether you like it, you find it appealing, whether it's men or women. Look, you know, a lot of people, I'm just quoting what I hearsay here. Many people look at women bodybuilders and they're like, yeah, that's disgusting. Look, they're not asking you to date them or to engage in conversation. Like, I know a lot of women bodybuilding, and regardless of how they might appear to the general public, men and women alike, these people are just, I got a lot of respect to them because I've seen them as I've grown up. People change and they're constantly, like, my level of commitment is up here and theirs is like this all of the time. So hats off to you guys if there are any actual, I don't say real bodybuilders, but true bodybuilders watching or following or asking questions. Like, ma'am and sir, my hat goes off to you. Tilt my hat because you guys are incredible regardless of what mainstream people, myself, or anyone else think. Anyway, we're going off the point there. That distended gut, look, if you're training hard, you're eating clean, you're gonna be at a natural level at which you can really only change your body, and for like 90% of people, there's always a higher limit, and that's what continues to push me is have I really got to the best of my ability yet? I don't think I have. When I really look at it closely, I know I can be training smarter. It doesn't mean harder or like with more weight. It means I can use more knowledge, I can learn more, I can ask more questions and really get a very precise, smart training program that I know I'm not left feeling completely depleted and lethargic the next day. It's about changing things that aren't working for you and sticking to what is working for you. And it's not as easy as give me a plan and I'll follow it and I'll see results. It's the groundwork. It's here's the path or direction that I've gone. It's a good starting point. But as I found out with myself, there's a lot of factors that you kind of just got to change based on the results that you are or are not seeing. So, okay, someone asking about a macro split here. 250 grams protein, 100 grams of carbs, and 50 to 70 grams. Is that a good split for my cut? I mean, it seems fine. You got to look at the percentages. We're kind of going off track here. Go back and have a look at the video I posted. It's the meal breakdown. I give a kind of a formula, I guess, based on your weight multiplied by a calorie intake, and then use that, your total daily calorie intake, to break down a macro split for protein, carbs, and fats. It seems fine, but again, if you're 140 pounds or 210 pounds, those are going to be very different factors. So just touching upon that quickly, don't go into things too hard. And if you're just starting, I used that example earlier about point A, B, and C, with point A being that initial bulking phase or putting on some size, and B being the top of that bulking. Transition into stages. Give yourself at least a few days a week, even 7 to 10 days, because if you suddenly if you're having 400 or 500 grams of carbs with X amount of protein and fats, and then within the next day or two, 74 kilograms. So my conversion is not great now, 170, 160 something pounds. Go back and look at that past video, and it kind of breaks down exactly what those numbers are. Come on, guys, let's keep it respectful here. Not just to me. I don't care. My skin's hardened over the years, but to everyone else. Be good people. Go back and have a look at that video and compare your weight and those numbers against what I put out, and just use that as a starting point. But my point here was that transition from eating a lot of food to then kind of wanting to control and a cut is that, I'm trying to look through these questions. I'll kind of speak and then look through a question. Transition into a phase. Give your body time to recognize these changes. Otherwise, it's a big shock. If you're having 4,500 calories for a length of time, and then a relatively short space of time, a couple of days, you drop down to 2,200 calories and 100 grams of carbs, as an example, not a hit on your, appreciate it, thank you. It's not a hit on your numbers, just as an example. That's a big shock to the body. And Chris Aceto, I mentioned, he's a big reason why I wanted to write my nutrition book, and he was Jay Cutler's dietitian for many years. He talks about this as well, a big chapter about a state of alert, a shock to the body. And whenever that happens, the body kind of essentially shuts off and doesn't deliver on the results that you're expecting. So that would be my third point. Just to recap, I mentioned about rest and recovery, optimizing the muscle group recovery times, a progressive increase over weeks or every other workout, where you are pushing the body and changing a factor or two. It doesn't always mean trying to push for the heaviest weight. Again, you're going to get to a point where if you're bench pressing 100 kilos or 80 kilos and you build up to 90, 100 over the next couple of months, it's unlikely that you're going to see at least the same rate of increase, 110, 120, 150 kilos. My bench press has pretty much been the same. In fact, it's dropped a little bit, but it's been the same for years. The biggest, heaviest I've ever lifted, I think, was 315 pounds for a rep or two. It's not huge by any means, but it's pretty good for me. And I'm not a powerlifter, and there's plenty of other people who are bigger than me and can lift more than me, and that's great. So anyway, moving on. Allow for the third point. The third point was allow for a state of change. If you are following this kind of from A to B, and then you're like, all right, I put on a little bit of size, but I want to focus on a little bit more conditioning now, so I'm going to enter into that kind of very loosely defined cutting stage, but still controlling, like having an understanding about my nutrition, about my training program, my structure, my workout routine. Give yourself a kind of introductory phase rather. So allow for a period of 5 to 7 days to transition from a higher calorie intake, maybe the workout program, maybe even give yourself a couple of days of complete rest, 2-3 days, just to mentally say, right, I've reached the end of that focus point. I'm going to allow my body just a couple of days of like complete rest and recovery. And it doesn't mean going crazy with eating bad food, but it's like, this is the end of that particular section. So now I'm going to transition slowly into the next one, get my head around into it. And speaking about that, as I am now, right now actually, but when I get into a routine, a goal, an endpoint where I know that I'm not just training for the sake of it, and I want to keep fit, active, healthy, and try and maintain much of what I've got, when there's a real focal point, which for me is now to get back to beating my best condition ever, just to see, you know, why not? There's now a structure, a 10-12 week structure, which will be on my website, Rob Richards Fitness, over the next week or two as I put all of this information down, is that even though I feel comfortable knowing everything that I need to do, it doesn't just happen overnight. There's at least a week or two where a couple of days are good, and then one day may just be, I don't prepare my meals enough, or me and my girlfriend, we go out for dinner and I just eat more of what I want. I'm human like everyone else. But it's this transitional stage that takes at least a week or two, and then I get locked in with this laser-like focus where I love cheesecake or, you know, chocolate. Doesn't mean I eat loads of it, but I'll eat it now and again. But I'll get to a point where I'm so focused and I'm so committed that you literally couldn't pay me to eat something bad. I just don't want it. I don't crave it. And that's a big turning point, especially if you're, I feel this is important, so I want to give it a minute or two, just a minute or two. Especially if, I've worked with a lot of guys and a few girls where they want to do bodybuilding or competition aspect, and it's a new approach to training. They may be trainers or they may have years of training, but to get into this kind of very controlled approach to diet and training and having this whole kind of collective, all of these factors all contributing and affecting the result, it's difficult to kind of accept that, oh, I like eating candy, or I like eating these kind of food, or I don't want to cut out this food. So what happens is, instead of just saying, look, you need to do it from day one, you know, you got to be committed to it, is you transition them over the next week or two, and it comes from within. By that I mean they start to see that results are coming, and they start to really become motivated and believe in what they're doing is delivering results. They're seeing it, they're feeling it, they're being told it by other people, they're becoming motivated, self-motivated, to the point where they know, just the same as we do, that if you're either eating the wrong types of food, you're eating too much, you're not committing fully to your diet or the training structure, you know that that's the one thing or a couple of things that are in your control that sooner or later you're going to start to fully commit to and realize and say, you know what, enough with the past couple of weeks where I'm just training hard and eating good food, but I'm not really seeing the results that I thought I would. Do away with that candy. I'm going to stop eating that junk food and just give myself 4 weeks. If you commit for 4 weeks, whether it's yourself doing it, whether you're training someone, working with someone, a workout partner, commit just for 4 weeks. The difference you will see at the end of week 4 compared to the beginning will be enough to, providing you're doing things right, 70-80% of the time. You don't have to, and by that I know I'm contradicting myself, but to commit yourself, just try and do the right things as often as you can. Even if you slip up every now and again, think of it as a bit of a false start. Don't carry on with that day and be like, screw it, I've messed up on my breakfast or second meal, so this day's shot, I'm just gonna eat what I want. No, you've eaten it now. It's like, it's done, it's behind you. So meal 3, 4, and so on, get back to eating the good, clean food, and the following day just start as you would if you never slipped up. It's a much better approach than, screw it, I've messed up, to hell with it, I'm just gonna eat or not work out now and kind of fall off track for a couple of days. That, in my experience, is the best thing for me, to kind of mentally not let it affect me. And even if I had a cheat meal or something bad, or I ate too much food, I would just literally forget about it. It's in the past now. I'm going to carry on with my program, my steps. And I found by doing that, I was able to, instead of doing this 12-week kind of getting ready by the end of that 12th week, peak week for a competition, by the end of week 7 or even 6, I was where I was when I used to really diet for 12 weeks. And I saw that by just being committed to that program and to myself, and to not cheat myself out of anything, if I did everything to the letter, I would see the results come quicker. Okay, let's go back to a couple of questions. So we're talking about weight gain, muscle building, size. That's the topic of today's video. And okay, let's have a look at what you guys are saying. Okay, got a question here about muscle unbalance. So this is a good question, regardless whether it's you're looking at putting on size or you're looking at cutting down and getting rid of body fat is we start to really look at the body as the structure and the balance as well, rather than just I'm 5% body fat or I'm 200 pounds of jacked muscle. Look, I have muscular imbalances too. One trap's a little bit bigger, one arm's a tiny bit bigger. For the most part, this doesn't really show, and if it's photography or competition, the art of posing will really help you reveal your best side and kind of not show the weaknesses as much. So I know Arnold was a big component of that. By the way, if you've seen his new shirts, I saw him wearing one at the gym, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He trains at Gold Gym, of course, and it's great to be able to work out there and see him in the morning. And he's got this new t-shirt that's it's like an 80s classic style. It says, "Come with me if you want to lift," which if you're a fan of Arnold, which many of you must be, especially the Terminator movies, yeah, anyway, you know. So muscular imbalance, art of posing is going to help a lot with that, but also just for our own kind of knowledge and knowing that we're doing things right. We also want to make sure that as we train, there's a real purpose there instead of just get big or get cut. So here's my thoughts on muscular imbalance. I still focus on, okay, let's say arms. Let's imagine yours or my right arm is that much bigger than my left arm. Do I do more single arm exercises on my left arm? Should I just not train my right arm? I wouldn't say don't train a muscle because it might be more developed or well-rounded than the other. There's a couple of factors here that I've kind of played around with and have found useful. One is if we are training single muscle groups like arms, for example, we'll go with that example, right and left bicep. Alternate between which arm starts. Don't always let your dominant arm start. If you're doing 3 sets of a machine curl, a single arm machine curl like this, all too often we'll start with our dominant arm or our leading arm. We'll do the first set on that, and then stuff keeps popping up on the screen. So alternate back and forth. If you start on your right arm and then left arm, rest, go back to your left arm, focus on that, and then finish on your right arm, then stop, and then on your right arm again and left arm. So alternate which arm or side you start with. Second tip would be definitely, I think that including some single or bilateral type movements into your workout will help. I still focus on the bigger compound lifts or those multi-joint barbell type exercises. Get those done first and foremost. And then I would go on and throw some dumbbells and cables in there. A lot of this also comes down to complete angles, full spectrum, all of the different ways that you can train the bicep. Tons of video both on my Facebook playlist and on my YouTube channel, of course, showing pretty much every conceivable exercise. I'm still adding to it, of course. Don't stick with just the basics. Change things up. If we're looking at this arm example, don't just do a barbell curl, maybe a dumbbell curl or a preacher curl. Rotate. This is why having a structure so that you can identify which areas you want to change and which maybe you felt the best pump after. I wouldn't say just do 2 or 3 sets on the left arm and don't train the right, but give definitely a focus, your prominent attention to the weaker side. Start with that one. Maybe do, you go heavy for 8 reps and then you do a drop set just on the left arm, whereas the right arm you would only stick with a lighter weight and just hit those 12 reps. See how that feels after 1 or 2 workouts. Have a little training notebook or journal to jot down notes and to keep how you feel about those workouts in the following days. Much of this, you kind of know when you've had a really good workout, you feel pumped, you feel like you've thoroughly worked that muscle. You kind of know that you did things right. You don't have to be a top level trainer or a pro competitor. You just know, you feel it, you know that you've done it. Some workouts are better than others, some exercises are better than others too. So chest as well, chest, legs, traps, backs. Definitely throw in some single type movements, cables. With chest, I'll do dumbbells and do some left and right, and maybe even have a spotter help me support my left arm a little bit if that's my weaker side of my left. Excuse me, my left chest pectoral is a little bit smaller. Just got to kind of work it from every angle and use all of these different factors to kind of get into the stride and feel which one is providing the best results for you. We're all the same. We all have weaknesses, bigger muscle groups, stronger muscle groups, more dominant sides. Okay. Someone asking about creatine. Yeah, look, I'm a big component of creatine. The micronized monohydrate creatine. It's one of the kind of the oldest forms out there. I know there's a lot of the new types of technology. Yeah, I'm a fan. I haven't used it for a while. I've cut right down on my supplementation to just a few. But yeah, I'm a fan of creatine. There's a lot of, it's been said time and time again, it's one of the most studied, one of the most kind of reported supplement, and it's just because there's some truth to it. It affects, or it builds up. It needs to saturate in the muscle first. So don't think that just taking a creatine or buying a drink with maybe creatine in, you're gonna have this awesome workout. Typically, you kind of go through a loading stage of 5 days a week, and it might be, don't quote me on this, but it's something like 20 grams of creatine over the course of the day. So 4 servings of 5 grams, 1 in the morning, pre-workout, post-workout, and 1 in the latter part of the day or nighttime. So it becomes saturated in your muscle. And this is where like crealkaline, different types of creatine, no longer need that loading phase. So there are different forms out there. Do a little research on each one. Both I've tried, both work well. I like doing things that I used to do when I was 14, 15, not that I'd take creatine at that age, but certainly 17, 18 upwards. It saturated for the first 4 or 5 days to build it up into the muscle. It has to kind of, not tolerance, but the saturation levels of creatine need to increase. And yeah, I remember that my workouts, I was able to not get a better pump, but I just felt I was more into it. I felt like I could activate and get those deeper muscle fibers, the type 2B, the growth fibers involved a little bit more. Give it a try, and you know, if you're following a structured program, training program, workout routine and diet plan, then you can also look back and say, okay, I've added creatine in at week 3. I'm going to keep an eye on this over weeks 4, 5, 6, and 7 and actually see if my weights, the increase, or how I feel if I just jot down a little note after the training, is this actually having an effect? And if you're not seeing any effect, if your weight really hasn't changed, if your intensity or your weights that you're lifting in the gym haven't changed, then does creatine really work? It could be working, you're just not seeing the results translate onto paper. So you've got to kind of take everything with a pinch of salt. And also, I like to have something to be able to kind of a little checklist, whether that's take some before and after photos and see if it's just because I've been into my training routine for the past 2 months, whether that's really the result here. So again, going back to this, having a set routine, something that you can moderate and change, it really gives you a good reference point to say, does this supplement work? Does this new kind of training program work? Does adding an extra rest day in work? Creatine is drugs. There we go, we started the topic of conversation. On Monday, someone was commenting that protein is a steroid. So yeah, creatine, it's not a drug. I'm not gonna get into this. Talk about it yourself. Someone mentioned about Plateaus. Who mentioned that? Suren. Great question. So Plateaus, the way that I see this with myself, with my training, is that if I'm following pretty much a set workout, every workout routine, I lay it all out. Like I mentioned before, I have these kind of monthly planners that I used to just put up on the wall there in my training diary now, where I would literally know what I'm training and when, and there'd be days that I'd have a rest day or unscheduled and push everything forwards. But for the most part, I know what I would be doing in the gym. It gave me a set, very, very dedicated routine. So if I was not seeing an increase in weights or my body weight, my body composition, maybe I just wasn't feeling it for a little bit. Guys, come on, protein isn't a steroid, and for the most part, creatine is not identified as a drug. Let's put that to bed. I know that I would kind of be reaching, I guess, a plateau. I'm not seeing the types of gains or an increase or a drop in body composition or weight loss, if that's my goal. So I'd go back to my training. First thing here is to identify it, not just I had a bad day, had an argument, there's a bad day at work, I had my eating schedule was off. That could kind of throw you off track, and it may not be that your body has adapted so much, it's become efficient at the workouts that you're doing to the point where it no longer needs to change. So the first thing is to identify, and that's why I like to go back and always refer to my actual training program. Is this an ongoing thing? For the most part, are my bigger exercises not seeing an increase in weight? Is that because I've been doing them for 3 months and I have kind of reached the maximum level at which my body can adapt to? Even if that might be the case, that gives me a cue to start changing things up. So one thing I might do is to change an exercise completely from a free weight to either a machine or a different types, or start with maybe completely reverse my workout program. Not so much that I'll start to see an increase in weight again, but now I'm training, as an example, if I start off with bench press for a chest workout, I may end on that for my workout after maybe 2 or 3 months. Obviously, it's unlikely I'm going to be lifting the same weight, certainly not more, but there'd probably be a drop because it's at the end of my workout. My chest muscles have been depleted from the beginning exercises that used to be the end, but it's going to work it in a different way. So now I might end my workout on a compound movement, multi-joint, and big free weight bench press. And whereas I might warm up on it initially and add the maximum amount of weight I could on and get a spotter, it's completely reversed it where I'm already depleted, I'm somewhat fatigued, I've hit failure a lot, I've reached my training threshold. So now I'm on this weight lifting bench press with perhaps only 2/3 or even half of the weight that I'd normally do. But I'm able to feel those chest muscles and really think about it more than when I'm trying to load on 2 or 3 plates and just get that up. Because I don't have that strength and I'm also depleted and tired obviously towards the end of the workout, I might just have 1 plate or 1.5 and really focus on getting that muscular contraction, peaking it at the top, maybe slow it down. So there's these factors that I would start to mix up my workout routine if I'm reaching a plateau. But the first thing is to identify it. The second thing I would say is to look at which areas of your workout program, and there's tons. There's not just an exercise. You've got rest, recovery, you've got exercise placement, you've got rest days. Look at your nutrition. If maybe your nutritional intake is unchanged over so many months, and you've put a couple of pounds of body mass on, your weight's again, your body needs more calories, as an example. So that could be another factor. And by having this set routine, I always find it gives you something to go back to and actually look and make 1 or 2 changes. Okay, do a few more questions here. Okay, someone asking, Calvin there saying, using my 7-day training program, I'll touch upon that. I normally train medium heavy, so the rep range 10 to 15 leaves me struggling to complete the exercise. Should I drop the weights a bit, finding it rewarding? Cool. First of all, thanks, Calvin, for using the training routine. For those of you who, you're like, what, training routine? If you, look, you're on Facebook, you can get it for free on here, like the full routine. Click on more here. I turn it around. It's hard to see. Click on the tabs up here, more. It says free training guide. Click on that. Oh, not Instagram. You'll see this screen pop up. Just put your email address and name and you get it through like within the hour. And it's a full 7-day training program. Now, I'm not saying that never have a rest day and you've always got to train every day. I broke my entire kind of muscle group down, including smaller, weaker muscle groups, traps, calves, forearms, abs, pretty much every muscle group. And I organized it in such a way where I felt I was able to fully commit to those workouts, allowing, like I talked about earlier, the optimal amount of time from that muscle that had just been worked to recover before it's worked again. So I'd add a rest day in as and when I felt the need, whether I just didn't have time in the day, and it happens, we've all been there, or something comes up and I can't get to the gym, or I'm just not mentally feeling it. I just have a rest day, and then I pick up the following exercise or workout routine the next day. So even though I initially set it up with this muscle group on Monday and this one on Tuesday and Wednesday and so on, pretty much Monday through to Sunday, take out the weekdays and just say workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And time again, you know who's calling. My girlfriend calling. Take out the weekdays. So you've got workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I would just follow it on a Monday or Tuesday or a Sunday, whatever day it might be, but I do workout 1, followed then by workout 2, followed by workout 3. And if I missed workout 4, I didn't want to just, whatever reason, I didn't want to do workout 4 for any particular reason, I'd have that as an off day, or I'd just do cardio. I might just go in and do abs and hit some calves again. And then the following day, which would be a Thursday, for example, I would pick up exercise, or Friday, I'd pick up workout 4 and 5 and 6 and do it that way. So to answer your question, Calvin, I think it was, about the intensity and dropping the weight down, I like to get the heaviest weights early on in the workout. I do a little warm up. Normally just a circuit. I'm not worried about reps. I just want to feel ready. So if it's shoulders, for example, I'll go in and for the first 5 minutes, I may go on the rower, might go on the rower for a couple of minutes. That's my rowing technique. No, go on the rower, really start to warm up my shoulders and upper body. Then I might pick up some really light dumbbells or 5-pound plates and just do some lateral raises until my muscles start to burn. And maybe an upright row or a little circuit, just to the point where I feel, all right, mentally I'm prepared for that workout ahead. My shoulder joints are feeling like warmed up and mobilized. Let's start with that first exercise. And then I'd move through that workout, get the heaviest weights done first. You'll see on the workout program, many of these multi-joint exercises, the big kind of compound ones, the muscle building ones, if you like, I group very early on in the workout. And I actually spend about half my time on the first exercise or two. Then I move on to more of the machine, more of the isolated, more of the single joint exercises. And I'll often rotate 1 or 2 of those exercises around every workout that I train that same muscle group. So my muscle groups are always grouped, for the most part, in the same manner. Triceps and traps are always together. Back, it's on its own. Chest and forearms. Biceps and triceps. And then I think there's one workout there where it's biceps with something else and triceps, like with traps. So check on that tab, get the program, and you'll see the layout, and use it as an example, and then you can kind of change factors around that best suit you. So my advice or suggestion rather would be get the heavier workouts done where you are hitting that 10, maybe 8 rep range, even finishing that last exercise on maybe a 5 reps max, and then dropping some weight off, only about 30%, and starting to push that intensity even without the weights being up. So my workouts are kind of the same, but they're never quite the same, if that makes sense. Get the program and you'll see. Okay, I'm going to finish on this question. What motivates me to carry on? I know I've been talking a lot. I know you guys are posting a lot of questions. This is why I want to do this 3 times a week. And we definitely carry this on because I feel like with nutrition, I always want to get a story across first, just to kind of set the scene and to say, look, this is my approach. This is how I got into it. This is try and answer many of the questions that I think I would want answered if I was asking them, and then start to, sorry, someone mentioning a lot about a book. All right, that's the book. Ultra Lean is my nutrition book. Real quick, it talks about conditioning a lot, but I do mention about muscle gain and weight gain, and it's got full, you know me and my numbers, it's got full meal plans there, full macro calorie splits. Definitely talks about fat and muscle gain. You know where to find it, just Google it. It's on my website, it's on a couple of sites out there. It talks about things like that. I worked with Muscle and Fitness, WIDA. So yeah, they published it, and I'm now doing a training book. So the reason I showed that was because that's everything that I know about nutrition. Right or wrong or questionable, but it's all my thoughts, all my words, and I put it down. I'm doing a training book just like this, which is kind of what I'm talking about now. And the reason I brought this up was this is 260 pages of nutritional information. Everything's researched, everything's kind of checked out, and it's to my knowledge the best and most insightful that I can give. I want to do the same with training, and that's going to be a bigger book, in fact kind of broken down into chapters. And yeah, obviously using many references and guides and text journals to get that kind of information, but present it in a way that I found useful and that it worked for me. So I'm working on that book and putting it all on my website too. It's taking a long time, and then I'll start to break those down into smaller chapters for complete bicep training, complete chest, complete, all of these different, so it's easy to kind of follow something and say, right, I've been training now for 3 or 4 months following this set routine. I want to start to mix up my routine, or I want to throw in something else. Give me some other options and workouts. So every arm workout, chest workout, legs, whatever it might be, weak point training will be a full chapter devoted. And by no means will it replace your other training books, especially if it's like the Brawn. That's a great book. Unleashing the Freak is a great book. Of course, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I think that's like so many generations now. That's a classic. But I just want to kind of put out my thoughts on training, and if you're interested, it'll be about the same price as this book. $30, 18 pounds, including a full training plan. And that, can't give you a date. I'd love to give you a date for when it will be. I don't know yet. And if you're interested in more coaching or one-on-one, hit me up on my website, Rob Rich's Shop. You can see some of the offers that I've got there. But anyway, it goes on about motivation. What motivates me? Look, let's just call it what it was. I wanted to get the best body that I could. And for me, being on, I know it's a book cover, but having that look like the magazine covers, the Men's Health covers, with the abs and having that chest, and not being a huge bodybuilder, but being more athletic and, in my opinion, kind of like the Greek god, just athletic. Look, if you can wear a shirt, it's a large shirt, fire engine going past. For me, the goal was always to be able to put on at least a jacket or have a jumper or a sweater and not look like a bodybuilder. Again, not criticizing bodybuilders at all. That's just not my direction that I wanted to take it. I wanted to have that wow effect, if you like. I remember I used to work at a gym, Fitness First, years ago, back when I was 17, both in Camberley and Fleet, in Hampshire area, south of England. And I was in good shape back then. And I remember I had the shirt on, I was working at front desk, and I was talking about training to someone, and of course, I wouldn't expect anyone to be like, oh wow, you look cut, or you look jacked, or anything like that. But I remember then I'd have this tank top on, I'd go into the gym, and as soon as I started to lift, I was getting ready for either a photo shoot, my first big photo shoot, I think it was. So I was pretty lean and conditioned, and that person who came up, I don't remember their name, I don't really remember who it was. It was a guy, and he came up and he was like, wow, I never thought you looked like that. And for me, that was just, I always wanted to have that approach. Not to show off and wow, there is an element of that, of course, especially in our own time, like when I'm at the gym and you're like, all right, it's go time. I'm looking good, I'm feeling good, I'm just gonna kill this workout. Yeah, there of course has to be, I think, a level of that. How much of it you let out and you show to others is it's an individual thing, I think. But for me, it was always just knowing that I wasn't walking around showing it, but I knew that when I was in my element, when I had all of the pieces lined up, when I had all of that time behind me, put into my body, my lifestyle, my training, my commitment, and I was on form in the gym or for a photo shoot, and really on stage back then, that was my goal. That backstage people would just be like, who's this kid? But when I walked on stage, and yeah, I was as leaner than I am now, smaller, by no means a big bodybuilder, but my conditioning was on point, certainly for my age and size at that time, and that was the wow factor. So what motivates me is to get back and to keep that wow factor, not for other people, but for me, so that I don't always walk past a mirror and be like, damn, I look good. But when I'm in the gym and I know that my training and my nutrition is solid, I can look at the results and just be like, I got there, I'm on point. I achieved what I set out to do. And it never really ends. It wanes from now and again. By that I mean there's days where I'm really motivated and days where I'm not motivated at all. And you just got to learn to accept. There's days where I'm not motivated, I don't want to go to the gym. So I won't. I'm not going to go into a place that I love, and I love being in there. I feel in my element there, especially Gold's Gym. And if any of you have been there, you know that kind of motivation, that rush, that excitement, even if you've been training there for years and years. But any gym really, if I go in there and I'm going to follow a workout plan, it's my time, it's my zone, music on or not, it's where I just feel comfortable. So if I'm not feeling motivated, I won't go there because that's my happy place and I don't want to be sad in my happy place. So I'll go do something else. I'll take the bike out. I take my dog out and just go running. I'll go do cardio. I find an old playlist from back in like the late 90s hip hop and stuff. Foxy Brown and Mo Money, Mo Problems and you know, all that, like LL Cool J. And it will take me back to when I was 16, 17 again. And I'm like, here I am more than half my life later, still doing what I love. And it kind of reminds me again about why I am still passionate about what I'm doing. So that's really what motivates me. And of course, when you guys come up, and I know this happens with many other people as well, not just me, seeing the impact or the influence or just putting out stuff that have worked for us, to be able to see it be replicated, like that really is a good feeling. Putting competitions, magazine covers, or any other kind of achievements aside, one of the greatest feelings is meeting, hearing from, seeing, whether it's through email, in the gym, out and about, at airports, wherever it might be, but seeing that you've had a kind of an effect, an influence, hopefully, on people, and they've come up and it's like, hey Rob, or hey Steve, or hey whoever it might be that you're following, you said this, or you put this out there, or I watched this video, or I tried this that you said, and 6 months later or so, here I am, and I'm doing what I wanted to do, or I changed how I felt about myself, or how I looked, and that is, you can't replicate that feeling. It's different each time, and it's just awesome. So if you guys have done that, or you've emailed or messaged me and I haven't seen it, it's not because I'm not out there looking for it. It's just, there's so many of different formats: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, emails, on blogs. But thank you if I or many people that I rub shoulders with have influenced you. And let me just end on this. Pay it forwards. Pay it forwards. Whatever you feel that you learn, create some value for other people. I try and do that with stuff I do. Of course, there's selfless kind of Instagram pictures or stuff where whatever quote you put out, it's really just to be like, hey, I look good today, or my abs are on point, or this pose looks well on me. Not that one, that's weird. You get the point. But I try and have some value so that I can feel proud about some video or some content or some training or a recipe or just some thoughts about training. Whatever it is that you guys do, guys and girls, old and young, from any walk of life, from anywhere in the world, pay it forwards, because when you get that approach by someone and they basically say, thanks. Hey man, thanks. Watch your video. I followed this information. It's a great feeling. I want you all to feel that. So pay it forwards, offer some advice, put something together, learn something, showcase it, and then try and pay it forwards. And, you know, let's make everyone a little bit healthier, a little bit happier, a little bit better, one workout at a time. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to be back Friday morning. Hopefully I'll be back at the gym, so we'll do something fitness training related. Worked pretty well last week when I had the camera here. Talking about training and maybe do a couple of exercises. So I don't know, maybe shoulders, just because it's an easier thing to kind of have exercises grouped around. But I'll put a poll out on my Facebook page. Go get the program, free training program on my Facebook. If you want, check out my book. It's on my website. A couple of you are asking about got this new product. It's a pre-training, pre-workout thing. I'm not going to say too much about it. I want you to make up your own mind. That's on True Performance Nutrition, also on my Facebook page. So check it out. I'll be back Friday, and I'll see you guys then. So enjoy the rest of this week. Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's about 7 p.m. in England. Hopefully I'll be back at Gold Gym and we'll do some shoulder workouts then. So until then, just be happy. Bye guys. Take care.